Hello there. Trump picked a very controversial Surgeon General in Janette Nesheiwat. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. Anyway, so she was very pro the jabs and the masks and the mandates and so on, for the most part, during the pandemic. And people on the right, people on the center, who are very against mandating and who feel that they have been presented only one side of the story about certain medications. We don't like her at all. We don't like anything that she represents here. And you might say that maybe she changed her mind or there is some other reason to appoint her, but it's really not looking good. I am in the belief that Trump made a big mistake appointing her. Somebody might have given him bad advice, which is very strange considering how close he's supposed to be working with RFK Jr. against Big Pharma, and she seems to be a Big Pharma shill. Now, let's see this first. It's a short clip where she essentially is pro-censorship. I don't understand at all how can Trump work with anyone who's pro-censorship. It's one of the biggest problems and one of the problems that he was supposed to address, that he promised to address, even going so far as wanting to change Section 230 of the Communications Act in order to stop social media from censoring. And yet his pick for Attorney General is here congratulating Facebook for censorship and wanting other social media to do the same. Does not compute, you know?
First of all, vaccines save lives, and I am so excited, and I thank and I commend Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg for taking action, because this affects everyone. This affects our children. It affects adults. I mean, just look at the recent measles outbreak, the biggest outbreak that we've had in decades with measles, and that's no joke. Measles can cause brain inflammation and pneumonia and ear infections and hearing loss and death. So it's about time that they are taking action, and I hope and pray that other social media platforms will follow suit and do the same thing. First of all, vaccine.
So that's against jab misinformation. I think censorship is bad in general.
Depression, drugs.
And I think that's, especially when you're talking about a medical product, people should be allowed to discuss it. They should be allowed to say what they think, and the public should be allowed to hear whatever source of information they trust. It's not up to you to be the arbiter of truth, no matter whether you're government or big pharma. Call yourself the expert, the World Health Economic, World WHO. What's it called? World Health some organization. I mix that up with the World Economic Forum, because essentially they say the same things, honestly. They're sort of founded by the same people. Anyway, she also was on Fox News, arguing for people getting triple boosted, masked, and so on.
Public health experts urge Americans not to skip that second vaccine dose. Yeah. So what happens if Americans do?
Well, here's the question. How long will it last? Will you get that 95% protection? If you want to have long-lasting, full-strength protection and immunity, you want to get that second dose despite any potential side effects. Because, again, it can protect you from death, hospitalization, severe complications. And on top of that, Lawrence, recent studies just came out that show if you pick up COVID, even if you're not hospitalized, even if you don't suffer severe complications, 1 out of 3 will develop either a psychiatric disorder or a brain neurological disorder within 6 months. That's 30%. That's a high number. So you want to keep that in mind.
So obviously, I can't give you any medical information on the pandemic because it's YouTube, but let's just say that the experts may not have been correct on everything at the time. Now, in her favor, you can see that in 2022 she was talking with Tucker Carlson, and she argues against jabbing kids and school lockdowns. So she was kind of wishy-washy on the whole thing. Maybe she was following the science, as it were. I mean, talking about the research. There have been a lot of papers that came out at first showing things that are favorable for the World Health Organization and similar experts, and then turned out to be not quite accurate or complete, and then there were more comprehensive research papers that were actually using the, gold standard double-blind studies that are peer-reviewed, and those actually showed very different findings. So it's not impossible that she changed her opinion on the things. I would really want, at the bare minimum, to hear what she thinks right now about jabs, about mandates, and about what she thinks is her role, and also about censorship. Seriously, I'm just very unhappy. I would have wanted someone who is vehemently opposed to big pharma, censorship, and someone who, from the very beginning, opposed the government policy on the pandemic.
It's important to understand that almost 86% of children have natural immunity. And a recent study out of the University of Indiana just found that natural immunity in children is actually stronger and lasts longer for protection, more so than compared to adults. So we need to keep that in mind. But yet they want to put this vaccine on the schedule that shows no benefit. There's no data or evidence that shows it's of benefit. And there's no data or evidence that shows it can prevent disease and it can prevent death. This vote was irresponsible and illogical.
So as you can see, she did have some correct opinions at some point. 2022 is quite a bit after, so it's not impossible, again, that she changed her mind. I would just, at bare minimum, want to hear what she has to say right now, and honestly, I would have preferred someone else. I think it's very difficult to forgive, impossible to forget, just how bad the sort of medical experts performed during the pandemic. In my personal opinion, they did not do a good job at all. I can't really tell you what or why, because again, it's YouTube, but on the whole, there were a lot of people who disagreed and couldn't say so, and quite a few people, I believe, right now, who regret the decision back then. None of them probably regretting the decision not to take it. Can we put pressure on Donald Trump as his voters to resign this nomination? Should we, if we can? I mean, I doubt he'd care about people like me who are pro his agenda but not American citizens. But perhaps American citizens who voted for him can put pressure on him. Should you, if you can? Maybe. I'm a bit hesitant. I would like to. Honestly, seeing how his speak for, I believe, Attorney General was withdrawn because the guy got into a controversy, it was kind of sad, because obviously the controversy was bad, but it seemed as though, in terms of political opinion, he seemed to be on the right track. So are we going to allow them to essentially pick and choose which candidates get in and which don't, using scandals from years back in order to make sure that they get the people who are the least likely to actually drain the swamp, to actually make a change, to fight against the corruption and the very anti-human agenda, very anti-American agenda that they have instilled into the institutions? I think that's an awful way forward. I think we should definitely be putting pressure in order to try and get as people who are as opposed to the big pharma, the bureaucratic machine, the sort of, how to put it, woke bureaucracy as possible. We need people in there who are vehemently opposed to anything that went on so far and who will fire people and turn things around. Just look at FEMA and how they are mired now in the controversy of essentially passing people over for a government aid because they have the wrong political opinions. This is something that requires a complete overhaul, just a restart button to the entire agency. And you have the same in, I believe, most government offices currently in the United States. I think that there need to be a very major cleansing. Obviously, not in any violent means, but we need to get pro right wing, pro nationalist, if you will, pro populist voices into government, and have them just fire a lot of people, change all the directives, and make a huge difference to how things are run. And she doesn't seem like the kind of person who would do that. She seems to be someone who is very influenced by the establishment at best, and outright a bad actor and a big pharma shill at worst. And even if best case scenario, I still don't think she's someone who could be counted on to be militant against the government offices that have been bought off by big pharma and big pharma themselves. I'd say big pharma is one of the largest challenges for humanity as a whole at this point. They are absolutely destroying our health, and I don't think that it's just them being incompetent. They are doing it to make money, and perhaps even doing it to make sure that we are too weak to resist the coming tyranny. And so this may well be one of the most important picks for Trump's government, and I think it's completely wrong. In my personal opinion, it's completely wrong. Definitely should be some pressure on him at the very least to hold her to account, so that any wrong move on her behalf might be enough to replace her. Because we do not have the luxury of having bad picks like this. This is what derailed Trump's agenda in his first term. I think even then he had a pretty good agenda. He didn't accomplish as much as he wanted to or should have, because he had a very difficult time picking good people out of the swamp. There have been a lot of controversy surrounding the few supporters that did manage to get in, and they were ousted on these grounds. It's not an easy thing to get people who oppose the machine, the regime, into power and allowing them to do what they need to do. It's absolutely complicated and difficult, but it's something that we have to do, and to at least attempt. This does not feel like an attempt at all. Thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.